Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Join me on today's video where I'm very excited to show you guys my latest purchase. This will be my final purchase for 2021. Now, in my question and answer video, I did mention that I was after a Sarb 33 or a 35. Now, surprisingly, I came across this absolute gem of a watch. It's of course discontinued, used, and in my opinion, much better than the Sarb 35 or the 33. So without further ado, let's have a look at what I picked up. So this is the Seiko Spirit SCVS001. Now, for those of you diehard Seiko fans like myself, you'll know that these are the predecessors to the Sarb line, especially the Sarb 33 and 35. You do have a SCVS003, which is, again, very similar to the Sarb 33. Now, these watches now have become quite rare. You do get them on the second-hand market, and they can go up for anywhere up to like £600. I got mine quite cheap. I got it for around £250 from eBay. Hopefully, if the seller is watching, I've got your watch here. Now, as you saw in some of the close-ups, there are a few issues with it. The first one being there's a bit of debris on the dial. Now, that's because I think the T, you can see the ink has just come off slightly, and I think there's particles floating around in there, which the seller did mention, so there's no issues with that. Also, this is a used watch, so there's a few slight scratches, swirl marks, etc., which you expect this, right? This watch came out in 2006. This particular model, I don't know when this was released, and they have been far discontinued. Also, I do need to swap some links around. I don't like how this has been resized. I don't like it when one side is longer than the other, so I'll be doing that. But yeah, with this Spirit version, as I said, I'm a massive fan of Seikos, and there is a whole world of Seikos which are cut off from us. Depending on when you got into the hobby, if you take a look at the older Sarb models, so the Sarb on a 1, 2, 3, 15, 12, etc., there's a bunch, and they look absolutely stunning. They've got blood red dials. You've also got that unicorn Sarb with a salmon dial, and there's just so much out there, but it's we're cut off from it because the JDM models, and only a few people manage to obviously get these watches over. So a lot of the older Sarbs, the Kit Kat version, etc., are just very rare to get by, and because of that, you've got crazy prices going out there. So I think I'm pretty fortunate to get my hands on this. It just so happens, I think these last couple of months I've been watching these models pop up on eBay. I think it might be down to 1 or 2 sellers where they're just trying to get rid of the stock. So just keep an eye out if you want something that's just quite a bit older but just absolutely stunning. And you can see this is different to the Sarb 35 in the way that it has a sort of a champagne dial with gold markers, whereas the 35 has silver markers. The bracelet is absolutely stunning. It's probably the best bracelets I've felt on a Seiko. Now, throughout this video, I'll show you a couple of differences that the JDM market has over the European market. There was a bit of a debate a while back between the SKX007J model and the usual model for the European market. So what I need to do at the moment, though, before I get into this review and show you a bit more about the watch, is I need to open it out, clean out all the debris here, obviously resize it as well, and then I can go ahead, show you some of the closer features, talk a little bit more about this. So while we're here, I'll put this watch on the Timegrapher. Now, as you can see, the readings are quite a bit off. You've got a plus 36 seconds a day. You've got a fairly low amplitude, which the 6R15 movements are kind of known for. And you've got a very high beat error of 2.4 milliseconds. So we are going to adjust this while we're here and just try to bring it down as close as I can. I'm pretty sure the watch could do with the service as well, but I'm not going to get that done right now. So let's see how we can tune this. Now you've got two prongs that you want to adjust. So the bottom one where you see the plus and minus, that adjusts the speed. Now the next one, that will actually adjust the amplitude. But I like to adjust the amplitude first and then adjust the speed accordingly. Now I'll have to do this off camera because you do need steady hands to do this. Now this is the best I could get it, and that's pretty good. Just the amplitude is quite off, but as mentioned, that is a symptom of this movement. So it could do with the service, in all honesty. That's not something I'm looking at getting done right now. So here we have it. We've done quite a bit of work to this one already. Dial's nice and clean now, no debris, etc. And yeah, I think it's a very, very impressive little watch. So let's look at some specifications. So you have a sapphire crystal in this one. You've got, of course, as you can see, 316L stainless steel case construction, a see-through case back with a mineral glass on the back. You've also got 100 meters of water resistance, and the watch runs the 6R15A version. Now the 6R15 movement is more or less the same as the NH35 or the 4R35. You do have a slightly higher power reserve of 50 hours. Now these movements were slightly troublesome. So you do have four variants of this. You've got the A, B, C and D. Now these are all four revised versions, and D being the latest revision is the most stable. Now as you guys saw on the Timegrapher, that this had a very low amplitude. This is quite common on this movement, so it could do with the service. But aside from that, everything else is perfectly fine. Now this watch is also anti-magnetic resistant to around 60 golds, which is always useful to have watches with anti-magnetic properties. Now, there are a couple of things which drew me to this particular model. Now, one being nostalgia. As mentioned, around the year that this Seiko was made, around that time, Seiko were making some really impressive watches. I think there's a lot of watches from that era, around the 2000s, where even the quartz chronograph watches were very unique, and it's something which we're not seeing from Seiko anymore. I think coming onto these current times, I don't know what they're actually doing. We're just making reissues after reissues. Now, the JDM market as well, there's a whole host of Sarb models that I don't think anybody will ever see, and this is what I would love to see coming back. So nostalgia aside, the second thing which I love about this watch is the size. 38 millimeters, 44.5 mil lug to lug, absolutely perfect, especially for my wrist, which is 6.5 inches. I think it just matches so well. Now the last thing, and of course the main point about this watch, is this gorgeous dial. It's a sort of a champagne sunburst style dial, and of course you can see all the gold that is present on the dial. You've got these Dauphine style hands, perfectly cut, very sharp, and you've got this super fine seconds hand. Proportions for other hands are fine for the most part, and it is a very simple dial. I think that's the beauty of the Sarbs. They are very understated. You do have these highly polished baton applied hour markers. Just look at that detailing present, cleanly cut, highly polished. I think the more you look at this watch, it's all in the detail. For such a simple watch at a distance, closer you look at it, you just absolutely fall in love with it. You've even got a chamfered and polished date window at 3 o'clock. Now I think a watch like this, take out this date window, the watch would just be perfect. I don't know why Seiko insists on putting dates on watches that don't possibly need them. And I'm just trying to imagine this dial without that 3 o'clock date window with a baton there. It would really add to the beauty of this watch. You also got a printed minute track to give you that functionality as well. All the second markers are clearly printed, and that loom is pretty decent for a somewhat sporty dress watch. All the hour markers are loomed except the one at 3 o'clock due to the date window being present. Very clear, and of course being Seiko's loom, it is going to hold out for a fair few hours. Now, the other thing which I absolutely love about this watch is, I mentioned in the start of the video, is that bracelet. Solid end links, female end links as well. You've got these triple links in the center, polished. They aren't fully articulate. They only move from one side. And the sides of the bracelet are again finely brushed, this satinized brushing. And this is where Japan, you know, they get the creme de la creme from Seiko. They really do focus on superb quality and finishing when it comes to producing watches for their home country. Now just have a look at that a lot closer. Look at those lugs, just ignore those scratches that you see everywhere. But just looking at this case as well, it is a stepped case, so you can see the lugs very, very fine. Polishing along the side, you've got a signed crown as well, which just adds to the appeal of this Seiko. A polished bezel, just look how thin that is. It's not overtaking the case. Some of the bezels that you do get on some watches, they're too wide and they do kind of get in the way. So absolutely perfect. And this bracelet is so comfortable. All the edges are rounded off really well, very smooth. Clasp, you know, is this normal clasp that Seiko come out with on the dressier watches. You also got milled clasp, and I love the differences on this watch from something like the Sarb 35. And I think these as predecessors are better in my opinion, and I think comparing the two, the bracelet is one of the weakest points of the Sarb 33 and the 35, is what gets the most complaints from users. But this bracelet on the other hand, it is done to absolute perfection. Let's put this on wrist. There you go. As I mentioned about the dimensions, fits perfectly on the 6.5-inch wrist. Very smooth, nice taper from 20 down to 18 millimeters. And it sits so close to the wrist. Conforms, the weight is evenly spread out. It assimilates into your wrist so well. So that's it from me, a bit of a fanboy video. As you guys know, I love Seikos and just wanted to share my latest purchase with you guys out there. If you are looking for some of these older ones, keep an eye out. If you get the chance to purchase one within, you know, reasonable budget, then definitely go out and get yourself one. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video.